Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Tonight, we're talking about some interesting stuff. An old caliber of some sort. And I'm sure at some point in time, somebody will give somebody crap. So, other than that, I want to say thank you to Sean and the gang over at Firearms Radio Network for giving us a place to hang out. And Jake and Ryan at Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co. for being the bandwidth sponsor. And they make cool stuff like that. So, although I don't know if anybody can see it or not, because it looks like it might have been on Travis. There, that's better. Look at that. That's the patch of the month. So. The answer for me on what I did in Guns and Reloading is abso-freaking-lutely nothing. For those of you tuned into the live show last week, you know I wasn't here other than typing occasionally because I was nice and sick. Still got a nasty cough going. It's not quite as obnoxious as it was, but I will be muted from time to time tonight still, just so everybody doesn't have to hear me hacking up the lung like a 95-year-old smoker. So, other than that, yeah, nothing. Jason, how about
you? Returned Dusty's phone call, and he's trying to help me spend some money.
That's nice of him.
Yeah, that's what buddies are for.
Mm-hmm.
So he's really pushing me towards that 300 PRC. And there's another powder dispenser. I'm blanking on the name. I talked about it a while ago, but they were having issues. Frankfurt Arsenal. That's the one. And he seems to think that they've fixed their issue. So he was kind of pushing me towards that too. So what else? And he's selling me a tripod. A nice high-end tripod that he got from a buddy of his for my either spotting scope or camera, whatever I'm doing when I'm shooting. And I think that was about it for me.
All right. How about you, Travis?
Well, let's see. Pull up my notes because I did do a bunch of stuff.
Well, I'm glad you were able to make up for the rest of us.
I did process a bunch of 223 brass again, back on the 5-gallon bucket of 223 stuff. Went to my local Sportsman's Warehouse and picked up 1,000 Hornady 75 grain boat tail hollow points projectiles. If you go onto either Buckeye Targets or the Reloading Podcast Instagram page, you'll see that I went to the range and shot a pretty nice group with my new BSF barrel, 5-shot group on there. Saturday, I shot a 3-gun match. I annealed probably 600 cases of Hornady 223 brass. Then I also painted a rifle for a friend of mine. I'm sure there's a couple things I had left out, but that's all I can remember right now.
What do you mean by painted? Did you grab like a rattle can and?
No, so this was just some Duracoat that I had laying around, some Stealth Gray, and it was his AR-15. I tore it down, hung it up in the shop, and painted it up for him. And in a couple days, I'll put it back together for him and give it back.
So, ooh, I gotta turn the fan on. It's a balmy 77 degrees with 90% humidity in the garage, so a little warm. All right. So, tonight's cartridge for the Cartridge Corner. He has one that's always fascinated me, and someday I'll have something in it. It is the 7.65 by 53 Mauser, also known as the 7.65 by 53 Argentine, according to CIP. So, developed for the model 1889 Mauser rifle by Paul, of course. Also, 7.65 by 53 Argentine rimless, just the 7.65 Argentine. Sorry, Argentine, not Argentine. In the United States, it's sometimes called the Belgian Mauser. It beats me. So, so ballistically, it's pretty similar to like the 303. So the history of it, basically, you know, as smokeless propellant was coming online, everybody was scrambling to try and come up with something that was, you know, using the smokeless powder, but also effective and more lethal, shall we say, than the black powder runs of the day. So if you look in the late 1800s and early 1900s, there's a glut of cartridges, and everything's based off something else, off something else, off something else. And so really wasn't a lot of copyright issues. Wrong page to have the show notes up. Yay me. Okay, so no, this isn't. This is a good old-fashioned 308 win. I just needed a bookmark. And you know, if you're going to use something off the reloading bench to use for a bookmark, might as well use the cartridge. So, all right. So it was actually Paul Mauser's first smokeless military cartridge. Its original incarnation was a 215 grain round nose bullet at approximately 2,000 feet per second. So as people understood what ballistics made a difference, and that the shape of the bullet made a difference, and everything along with that, they started changing the grain loads. So they went from a 215 round nose to 182 grain, and then 154 grain. So your 182 grain was 2590, your 154 grain was 2750. So it was really big in South America, especially. Hence the reason why you usually refer to it as the Argentine. So. Sorry, I didn't hit the mute fast enough. So basically, Paul Mauser kind of patterned it off of the Lebel, the 8mm Lebel, which was kind of the grandfather of the modern military smokeless cartridge. So until about 1936, this cartridge was loaded commercially by many ammunition manufacturers in the United States. Today, the only one still U.S.-wise is Hornady. Sporting ammunition still loaded in the caliber because people still use it for hunting, especially if they got milsurp stuff. It was usually dirt cheap. I know after World War I and especially after World War II, you could get, especially after World War II when the bolt rifle on the battlefield was pretty much obsolete, you could get a lot of bolt action milsurps for pretty dirt cheap. And we're talking like $10, $15, $20, which I don't know what the current conversion would be, but it's definitely still under 100. So it's pretty much one of those that, yeah, it was one of the first, but unlike the Lebel, which didn't have staying power, Paul Mauser knew what he was doing. And this one does have staying power still today, especially in Europe. It's still a very popular cartridge in Europe, still a very popular cartridge in South America. It's more of a niche cartridge here in the States, as a lot of the European or, the South American cartridges were, because, we're Americans and we like to make our own crap. So at some point in time, people kind of work on different things. So the 308 Win actually is a close ballistic twin to the 765 Argentine. They're both kind of a short action. So the case dimensions are overall pretty much identical to a 30-06 Springfield. So those of you who have 753 Argentines are looking to get one, and you're wondering about brass, resize and trim away. 30-06 is everywhere. And, they still make quite a few different bullet options for it. So, but by far and away, the Spitzer was the big change, as it was for all of the military cartridges. So, pointed tip, bullet shape. So that's kind of what they call it. So, in Europe, they use grams instead of grains for bullet weight. So, the common loading for this was a 10 gram or 154.3 grain Spitzer bullet, moving at 830 meters per second, or in feet per second, that's 29723, with a 2541 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle in a 23-inch barrel. So, maximum range of 3,700 meters. That's 4,000 yards. But, you're talking extreme angle, and we're just throwing it out there and hoping it hits something. They don't have any specs on what the actual energy is at that range, but I would suspect it probably would be less than, say, a airsoft gun at 100 yards. So they kind of played around with a bunch. The heavier is 173.6 grain, or an 11.25 gram Spitzer bullet, and they got that moving at 2379 with 2181 foot-pounds at the muzzle from that same 23.2-inch barrel. It also had a boat tail, so maximum range of 5468. So they reverse engineered the trajectory, because this is how they used to kind of figure out ballistic coefficient. Reverse engineering the trajectory from the previous sentence indicates a ballistic coefficient, G1, of approximately 0.55, which is pretty impressive, especially for a military cartridge. So, quite a few different. This also saw This cartridge also saw action in addition to the bolt guns in a couple of different machine guns. Actually, it served all the way into the 70s in some bolt action rifles in certain militaries. So, as well as the FN 49, which is made by Fabrique Nationale, for those of you who don't know what FN is. So they did kind of, use the cartridge in the modern firearms as well. So it's definitely cool, and like I said, it's on my wish list to do. I really want to kind of get one because I've had an 8x57. I don't want a 7x57, but the other cartridge that I kind of wanted a Mauser in, it would be the 7.65 Argentine, because it does have a nice ballistic coefficient, and it does have the ability to kind of play with it a little more. So, in my opinion. All right. First question for the night. And I forgot to put who asked it. Well, that wasn't nice of me. Oh, mediums breed some drag. Wants to know, what is the name of Phil's podcast? I was hoping Phil would be here to answer that him dang self, but obviously he's slacking. So it is Matter of Facts. You can find that on all of your favorite podcast device or podcast delivering devices. So, and I just got confirmation from Phil that he won't be here. So,
yeah, he talks a lot about how not to get your two-wheel drive Tacoma stuck.
He does not.
A lot of off-road talk on that podcast.
It is not. He spends a lot of time talking about prepping and that type of thing. And that's one of the reasons he's not here this week, is because he was at prepper camp all weekend. So he taught a reloading class for the first time, and it was a big hit.
Yeah, sounds like he has a lot of fun at those excursions.
All right. Next question. Hi, guys. To your discussion the other day, and this was when Matt was on a couple weeks ago. To your discussion the other day on the accuracy of an AR-15 versus a bolt gun, never heard of a bench rest shooter using an AR-15. Correct. I have an experiment for you. Does the COAL change?
First off, explain what COAL is.
Well, actually, technically, it's COL, which is cartridge overall length. Because overall's one word, not two words. But that's where COAL came from, is cartridge over all length. So, because we like to Americanize crap, and that's another Americanized thing. So, does the COL change if the bolt slams shut? This is the same way a bullet puller works. And if no crimp is applied, will the feed ramp move the bullet? Theoretically, under normal operation, the bolt should not be slamming hard enough in an AR-style rifle to cause that. Plus, the other thing is, by the time the cartridge actually gets seated in the chamber, which it never technically really does, because an AR chamber is actually slightly bigger, typically, unless you have precision, then it would be different. But for the most part, when that, and I'm using this one because it's a little bigger, it's a lot bigger. So picture this being a 5.56 bullet. No, it's not. Or bullet 5.56 cartridge. So it's sitting in the magazine like this, just minding its own business. The bolt comes sliding forward. As the bolt hits the back of the cartridge, it starts to push it up. Goes up the feed ramp into the chamber, and then depending on how your head spacing it, your head spacing off the shoulder. Shoulder theoretically makes contact with the chamber and stops moving. At that point in time, the bolt settles in behind and locks in. When you're using a bullet puller, you have Travis, you show that magazine quick while I go find my bullet puller.
I got my bullet puller right behind me.
Sweet. You want to grab it? All right. So that's a kinetic bullet puller.
What kind do you want? I got all of the kinds. I got all the
I don't care.
kinds.
Well,
Let's just
his
use
question
this.
specifically refers to the kinetics. So, yep.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, so this works on the force of, let me put it together. So this is a kinetic puller. It's like a little hammer, and you put your cartridge in the one end, and the strike face is on the opposite end. So the projectile is in line with your striking face. You then proceed to hit your hammer, which bringing the force of your blow onto the whatever surface you're hitting, and the projectile continues to travel at that speed and thus is pulled out of your cartridge. So there you can see there's the assembled case. So theoretically, I do believe if you were loading your cartridges and your neck tension was very weak, then I could see your projectile in an AR-15 rifle growing a little bit if you have loose neck tension.
If tension's that low, though, it's going to push the bullet back in the magazine as it's pushing it up and out. So, but what my point was making is, so yeah, that's how it works. But basically how that works is, hi Jason, is it uses stop motion essentially to, the case stops faster than the bullet does because the case is locked into that ring. And so the gravitational force moves the bullet. With going into your chamber, unless you've got a really tight chamber or you're running a really hot bolt, I don't think it's going to generate enough force as it seats in the chamber to actually have the bullet go out farther. You're more likely to push the bullet in as it's in the magazine bouncing around from firing if you have that little neck tension. So
I think there's a case for both though. If you're having very sloppy loading practice, and let's say a guy is especially on a progressive, if a guy is flaring his mouth of his case to seat his projectile, and it doesn't get a crimp on it, and it's very loose, I could see, because I could push this in, and I could pull it back out pretty easy with my hand. So if, let's just say, for instance, a guy did have sloppy reloading techniques and wasn't crimping and did have a really sloppy case neck tension, I could see it doing either growing a little bit, or more likely, once it does hit the feed ramps and goes up, it could be pushed back into the case more. Very common with ARs is you got the one projectile going in, and let's say, get a double feed, the next one will hit behind it, and you'll very commonly see that projectile get pushed in your case. So they're not crimped hard enough that you're not going to be able to push your projectile farther into your case. But on a normal, I put a slight crimp on my stuff. If it doesn't have a cantilever, I don't crimp at all. So, like I say, in my opinion, it could happen. Is it likely? Depends on the reloading practice of the individual.
Jason, what do you think?
It can happen if you don't do it correctly.
Yeah.
But if you do it correctly, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, if it's done correctly, you're not gonna. I'm picturing this guy questioning on a normally loaded case, could it be growing or shrinking? No, because then you would have almost every time a case is being fed in, you'd have one longer, one shorter, But if a guy, like I said, if his case mouth tension was sloppy, I could see that happening. Let me grab one tool real quick.
Okay. So one of the follow-ups or the examples he had is he had a 6.8 SP EC bullet pushed back into the case. It was an uncrimped reduced load. I believe on a normal load, 100% density, the powder would keep this from occurring. He won't ever load for an auto loader and not crimp. And thanks and keep up the good work, Junior.
So here is a very real possibility. Let's say this case, you guys watch me use the kinetic puller, right? It's got its primer in there. I took all the powder out. Now let's say you take this and you just go ahead, no crimp, but you reload it. The neck tension on this is no good anymore. You have no neck tension. So when I'm reloading, I have some tools from, I think it's ballisticstools.com. One of those is this case neck gauge. I don't know how well the camera can pick it up, but if you look at the gauge, there's graduating diameters on here. This side's for 224. This is for a 308. So this one I just pulled the case out of. You do not want this to go all the way up on the gauge. That shows you have no neck tension. So let me just see where it falls on this gauge. That actually does go all the way up. There's no tension on this. So if I did this to let's say one mag full, pulled all the bullets, and then went ahead and reloaded them, put the projectile in there, there's no neck tension. That's a situation I could see it happening. So when I'm reloading, I'm constant. I also have one here, go no gauge for primer pockets. So as I'm reloading, I'm constantly pulling some off the line, checking the primer pockets, checking my neck tension, making sure everything's where I want it to be. So like I say, that's just an instance I could see that happening. And I've done that a couple of times where you pull one off and then you throw one in a press and load it up and realize I actually needed to resize that to get my neck tension back. That would be sloppy reloading technique right there, where that could happen.
I think when you were checking that neck tension on the one you just pulled, I'm pretty sure that the bullet coming back out from kinetic energy would cause some expansion.
Correct.
So that one's probably not an accurate test. That's probably more a test you want to do before you seat the bullet, I'm guessing.
Correct. But like I'm saying, Yeah. If I had one sitting around somewhere, I just loaded them all up. On the gauge, when it's been resized, this would only go, I think, up to the second ridge on here. But I'm saying sloppy reloading technique is I did just pull the bullet out. I lost all my neck tension. And then I go ahead and reload this before I resize that neck. Then I would see, as I'm chambering, the cartridge overall length would be changing, in my opinion, because there is hardly any neck tension. But on a normal, like Jason said, on a normal reloading process, even with no crimp, I don't see very likely to either lengthen your cartridge overall length or decrease it in normal operations in an AR-15.
And a less experienced reloader
Correct.
might miss a couple of pieces of brass, not get them resized, something like that. I'm pretty sure I did that once.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm in my thoughts are on what I'm trying to explain here. Yeah. If a new guy didn't have any idea what about this and he accidentally reloaded some at the wrong length or something and decided to go ahead and pull those projectiles like I just did, he's going to think, I've already resized my case. I've already got it primed. I just need to go back, put more powder in, and reset my bullet. That's an instance exactly like I'm saying. I could see that happening, especially, yes, to a new reloader.
Or if you live in Idaho.
Doesn't your kid live in Idaho?
My wife's kid. I don't know if I'm the dad or not. It's never proven.
Anyway. Silliness.
Yeah, these tools, I really do like some of the tools I got. Let me just grab, I'm pretty sure maybe some of them have the name on here, but should be ballistictools.com. I've got, for primer pockets, a go, no-go gauge, so you can see if you're removed like a crimp for the go gauge, if there's a crimp in there or not, you can check it with the go gauge. If they're too loose, your no-go gauge will fit into there, and you'll know that to toss or recycle that piece of brass. And I've just taken a red and green Sharpie and put the go and no-go sides on this. And then another nice tool is this neck tension gauge right here. So this would be really handy if you were only neck sizing with like a bushing die or something. You could double check with this tool and see exactly what neck tension you got with this tool with these very fine graduating marks on here. Then of course I always use one of these Lyman blocks here to check my stuff.
Ooh, excuse me. So that actually comes as a 3-piece kit.
Yeah, you can buy them individual or like, yes, I bought it in that 3-piece kit.
Yeah, the
so you
3-piece
just found it.
Brainer. You're looking at the small and large primer pocket and the 224-308 neck tension gauges all come in one pack for $29.99. Just the primer pocket gauge set is $20. So
Yeah, they're super handy. I use the primer pocket go no go gauge, so I can see if the 1050 is swaging out those crimped primer pockets or not. So this is my most used tool right here, along with my Lyman case gauge.
there are definitely some handy tools. So our next question, unless you guys had more to add to that. No. So yeah, definitely sum that one up. If your neck tension's not proper, you're going to have problems. So, and if your neck tension's not proper and you're crimping to try and cover that up, that's not the answer either. So that can cause you more problems because you got to put a harder crimp on, and then your crimp's not consistent. I might flood away. Flash flood warning. Ooh. We got nasty thunderstorms rolling through the area, so I'm not surprised. My ditch isn't a ditch anymore. It's a pond.
Put some fish in there.
No. It won't last long enough. Nice thought, though. All right. Next question. I'm a new listener, and I'm really enjoying your podcast. I'm sorry. I started listening about a month or so ago. Quick. There's still time to save your brain. I started on episode 232 and have been playing catch up, and I'm now up to 251. Maybe now you can't save that brain. That's 20 episodes. It's fried. At the end of 243, you were talking about where everyone was from. I believe it was Jim. I don't know everyone's name by voice yet, who said he was from Pennsylvania and moved to North Carolina. Just recently moved from Northern Virginia to Northern Virginia from Oregon, and I'm having a hard time finding a good reloading shop. I don't know if he's familiar with or knows any good shops from being from the area. Any and all suggestions we've appreciated. Thanks for your time and keep up the good work. Paul. All right, gang. This guy needs some reloading shops in Northern Virginia. Yes, I know it's Northern Virginia. But for the most part, Virginia is still gun friendly and hasn't been polluted by Washington, D.C. and any idiots there. So those of you who are in the area or may have been in the area, send us some suggestions, reloadingpodcast@gmail.com, so I can get those forwarded on to Palm, because I don't know off the top of my head. And Jim's kind of more in southern North Carolina, so he probably doesn't get up that way much. He may have when he was in Pennsylvania, because it's only a hop, skip, and a jump. So, and he is originally from West by God, Virginia. So, but it's first of the month. Or first Tuesday of the month, so he's off playing at the gun club. He may join us later, he may not. If he does, we'll ask him. All right, but I wanted to throw that out there to the listeners. So, and if you've got a website that you know to use for searching for local reloading shops, by all means, let us know that too. Because to my knowledge, there isn't really anything out there. I mean, there's some gun store searches that you can do, but trying to find a reloading shops isn't quite as easy. All right. Next question. Hello, everyone. Just wanted to say I'm new to the podcast, but so far you guys are doing a great job. Useful information and great topics. I always casted bullets and used liquid Avalox, but after hearing Travis give the used car lot salesman speech, powder coat, it's pretty much accurate. I figured why not give it a go. So my question is, when would Jim make the amazing transformation from Alox to powder coat? I did, and I wondered why I have not started powder coating sooner. Thanks, guys, and keep up the good work. Loopy from California.
I feel like you almost need to reread this question here, or this in just a second when Jim actually gets on. I'm sure he'd love to hear this.
I guess I'm drinking the wrong whiskey to use as cough syrup. Damn it.
You got something in your glass. What was that?
Those are plastic ice cubes.
Oh.
Because I firmly believe that, yes, you should be able to chill your whiskey if you so desire. But it is sacrilege to add water to whiskey. So therefore, you must have something that can chill the whiskey without actually leaching water into the whiskey. Hence, the plastic ice cubes.
Keep the bottle in the freezer.
No, because I don't always drink it cold.
It looks like Jim was so disgusted at that question, he left.
Did he try and join?
Yeah, he was connected for a minute.
Interesting. I didn't even see him.
Yeah, back to that the viewer's question though, or was it more of a statement? I gotta reread it.
A little of both.
Yeah, I wish he would elaborate more. And let's say he knows as well as most listeners, I'm a hardcore believer in the powder coat. And Jim will never do it.
Nah, I wouldn't say never.
I would. He's made it very clear.
I don't think there's a very large chance of him doing it. But maybe we can figure out a way to trick him into doing it sometime for the podcast.
When his dementia kicks in, we'll just tell him, Jim, you've always powder coated.
So
Mike,
I don't know if you're a few thousand years old and you don't have dementia yet. Yeah.
Mike, have you started casting much, or is
No.
that something you're going? So what would be good is I send you some powder coat and some liquid Alox, and you try both, and you let us know what you thought was the better method. Not the easiest and the quickest. Yeah. Now, have you done anything with those powder-coated projectiles that I sent you?
No. Last weekend, over the last 2 weekends, I finally had enough stuff to be able to actually think about doing something. And then, yeah, no. Last weekend, I couldn't go more than 30 seconds without coughing. And then this weekend, it wasn't much better. So,
Well, speak of the devil, here he is.
hello, Jim.
Hello, Satan.
Oh, did you see how that's his screen turned when you said that?
I did see that.
Black and white, kind of creepy.
It did. But Mike, I would happily send you everything you needed. I'd even send you a little toaster oven
I
if
have
I needed
one over
to.
there.
I will send you. You just say the word, and I'll send you all the powder coat and everything, some liquid Alox, everything, so you could do a comparison.
Well, you wouldn't need to send the liquid Alox. You wouldn't need to send bullets. You could send the powder coat if you wanted. Because I already have, I don't know, a couple 140 cal bullets yet that Jim casted in liquid Aloxed that I can just clean the liquid Alox off and powder coat.
Yeah, you'd want to do a good, thorough job, though, getting that off.
Brake cleaner works wonders.
Yeah. That would be a very good experiment, though, because you've never done either.
Nope, I have not. So, yeah, I think Jim froze again. Phooey.
Jim is having issues. Maybe he's got the West by God, Virginia internet or something hooked up.
So, Jason, you normally use liquid Alox?
Yes.
Are you ever going to try powder coat?
No. Only those people up there in Idaho do that stuff. That ain't for me. I don't have any problems with what I do, Travis. Why change?
You know,
Is it going to make it faster?
It's going to make it more. It's more of a process. I can say that, but I think the end results are much better.
And
It's a poor man's copper plating, the way I look at it.
end result as in what though? Give me
no mess. Your seating. I always had the issues of my seating stems getting gummy and, having to tear that down, clean that out. My bullet seating lengths would decrease over time because of the liquid ALOX buildup. Handling the raw lead with the just that alone to bear the lead itself, but also the stickiness of the liquid ALOX on the projectile itself. All that's eliminated, and it's just to me, it's just like you went to the gun shop and bought a little pack of copper plated projectiles, but you get to pick your colors. I never did send you any, did I?
No, you're a dick.
Next package I send you, I'll include some so you can at least handle them and look at them.
So when you send me those bullets, throw me on one of those spinners, would you please?
All right. You want the taco edition spinner or just the regular one?
Ooh, taco edition would be awesome.
That's a dual paddled spinner.
Yeah, baby.
I'm gonna go see Taco and hang out with those boys either this weekend or next weekend.
Cool.
Hopefully get to go do some shooting with them before it gets too cold here.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I have a little one, little boy, and I'd hate to think that I was contaminating. Getting when you're messing with that lead, you get your fingers turn black from handling the lead projectile so much, and I'd hate to do that and then also go upstairs and for whatever reason forget to wash my hands or something, and then he picking a pacifier up for him or feeding him something, you just put that lead right into your kid or something.
Correct.
So that's all. You don't have that problem anymore.
I don't.
But you could have grandkids coming over sometime, and you're right back into the same situation.
But back in the day, Travis, back before you were born, we used to put sinkers in our mouths when we went fishing.
I used to do that too.
Even as kids. Yep. And it didn't seem to make a difference.
And eating all those,
I'm not saying
all those lead chips
poisoning is good for you or anything, but just like at what point do you need to worry about it? That's all.
Well, I can say I've been wanting to go get my lead levels tested. Have you ever done that?
No. I don't like going to the doctor.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe you and me, maybe Superman couldn't see through us because we got so much lead in our bodies. Who knows? But Mike can even attest. I sent him a video of me loading shotgun shells one time, and I was wearing black latex gloves because I didn't want to handle anything that would contaminate me. So when I went upstairs with the kid.
Right. Upstairs, so you got handrail. So when you walk up the stairs, you're touching the handrail. Your kids are reaching up and grabbing the handrail if they come down and see Daddy. I see where you're coming from. There's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah, but I just really like the powder coating process.
I think guns are dangerous, and you probably shouldn't own any, and you should sell all your reloading equipment just to be safe for the kids. It's for the children.
Now you're sounding like a link that Mike sent me yesterday or today.
Was it sarcasm or was it
No,
idiot?
some idiot firearms instructor who is supposedly I support the Second Amendment, but he's actually one of those, I support the Second Amendment, but
I don't.
But I believe in mandatory
training.
What was it? Mandatory training. Guns can take a life in the blink of an eye. So basically it was like only someone trained, pretty much kind of made it seem like he was saying, kind of promoting himself.
Right.
But yeah, I told Mike, anytime you say, I support the second, but
It's over.
you're an automatic asshat.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no but.
And that,
look in the 26 words. There's no but in the 26 words.
Yeah, that guy is here in Idaho, and I looked him up, his training facility. He's 3 hours and 44 minutes from my house.
You gonna go visit him and tell him what you think of him?
Well, I can tell you I won't be signing up for any of his training courses.
Right? Good freaking.
And you almost want to call him out so at least people signing up for his classes knows his thoughts on everything,
Right.
They suck. They sicked the WLS cantina on him. So.
Oh, good. You don't want that coming after you.
No. Because there's a few of those guys and gals that don't really have much better to do than sit on the internet. And yeah, there's quite a few of them that have spent quite a few 30-day sentences on Facebook. And they don't have a problem with it. So, yeah, so they went after him pretty good. I don't think he responded to anything. And the funny thing is this guy did this on his business Facebook page. So all of the replies are on his business Facebook page.
Sounds like he's not very intelligent.
I don't think so.
He's probably from Idaho.
Well, he is. He 100% is, but it's probably he probably reloads and he uses liquid ALOX on all his projectiles.
Is that it? Okay.
I think that's what it is. I'm
I
sure
thought
there's a
maybe
correlation between, yeah.
I thought maybe use a 1050 and powder coat or something.
No, he's probably one of those California transplants that are trying to pollute Idaho.
Well, more than likely.
I'm hoping to be one of those people someday.
No, you're not trying to pollute Idaho. You believe you're moving to Idaho because of what everybody there believes, and you want more freedom. You don't want to try and pervert Idaho into a California Northwest or Northeast, whatever the hell it is.
What? Yeah, you need to move closer to me though, so we can harass each other in person.
You might just not like me in person, Travis.
Right.
Travis.
Hold on. The truth is though, where you were talking about moving is going to be right in that guy's backyard.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm. So what was you saying, Mike?
I was going to say he just needs to move about halfway between you and the kid. That way,
that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
The kid, and he's not too close to you.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yep.
Jim's trying to reboot and join us here. So, yeah, I still got a couple thousand pieces of 223 brass to go through and deprime and decrimp. So,
heck, Mike, if you ever sent me a box full of that brass, I could run her through that for you. No problem.
Yeah, I appreciate that offer, but I really need to just get it done. So it's just a matter of now I'm finally starting to feel a little better. So hopefully this coming weekend, as long as I can avoid the honey-do list, I will actually mount this sucker right there. And then
why would you doesn't the Reloading Podcast have a 650
Yeah, but I don't know. Can you use that Swage around a 650?
Yes, the Swageit.
Oh, I don't have a Swageit for it, so
We could get you one,
it's a possibility.
and then you could do a whole bunch more at once.
Yeah. So, otherwise, what I'm going to do is mount this here, put the decapping die in this one, so then I take it from here to here, Swage it, and then back into the bucket.
What is that? An old Herders
This is an old Pacific.
Yeah, nice.
Although it is so old that it says Micro Precision on it. Omaha, Nebraska. So, and this, kids, is cast iron.
They don't make them like that anymore.
No. Worst case scenario, I could use it for bludgeoning people to death if I run out of ammunition.
But Travis, what's wider, Mike's leg or his wife's car?
I think my leg.
I didn't know he had legs. It just blended right into the car.
Sure.
Don't have any sun out there where you live?
I don't get time to be out in the sun. I don't have one of them outside jobs, which come the winter is a really good thing.
Mm-hmm.
In your area, yes, it is.
Yeah.
You just gotta go out like I do every weekend and shoot something.
Yeah.
And then have your wife complain that you do too much shooting on the weekends.
Isn't that the truth?
Well, they're going to complain either way, so just pick what you want to do and go do it.
Yeah, my wife said, you shoot too many matches. And I said, I don't shoot all year. And she said, you shoot more months than you don't shoot. You never leave me any time to do anything on the weekends. So I said, pick which match you want to go to and let's go.
Awesome.
I guess I misunderstood her.
My wife likes it when I go and do something and get away from her, leave her alone. Well, there's Jim, and he's in color.
That was a rough ride. Now, what's this trash that Travis is putting out there about liquid ALOX?
No, you should go read
I'm not going to. I don't want to.
See, stubborn
want
question.
change.
It's from our listeners, Jim. It's not from me.
I
Okay.
will read the question again.
Please do, because I don't want to change this screen. This is the only tab I've got open.
Hello, everyone. Just wanted to say I'm new to the podcast, but so far you guys are doing a great job. Very useful information and great topics. I've always casted bullets, then used liquid ALOX, but after hearing Travis give the used car lot salesman speech of powder coat, I figured why not give it a go. So my question is, when would Jim make the amazing transition from ALOX to powder coat? I did, and I wondered why I have not started powder coating sooner. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work. Lupe from California. Either he froze or he doesn't want to answer.
No, I'm not afraid to answer.
I'm just really stubborn.
I don't see the need for it. I don't mind the coating. I don't mind the stickiness. I don't mind it at all. And if I really wanted to take and clean up the nose of my bullets, a few drops of kerosene on a rag, wipe off a few rounds, and it's good to go. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It really is just that simple. You know, I'm shooting paper, for God's sakes. I'm shooting steel. You know, what do I care about putting out there, putting all the pretty little skittles out there? I can lubricate 1,000 bullets in 10 minutes time. Travis lubricates what? Coats what? 500 in 2 hours time, Travis? Be honest and be straight.
Okay, so now that I got my new oven, I can do,
Enough.
but it depends on the size of your cooking apparatus, Jim. So if I had a smaller oven, yes, I can only limited to that. So we could say in my new oven, I could do 1,000 rounds in 20 minutes.
Okay, but you have to handle those bullets individually, do you not?
The way that I am doing it, yes. Other powder coaters do not.
What do you mean? Are they powder coating in bulk like I lubricate in bulk?
Yes.
Yes.
There's
So
a lot of people who do that.
Yeah, so there's two ways, and I have settled. I've got my stubbornness too, Jim. So what I do is I do handle each projectile, but that's because I want the best results I can possibly get. So when you do shoot factory rounds, you get that plastic container that the bullets come in. They're all stacked in there. So I have a whole bunch of those that are the exact same manufacturer. So I run my projectiles, I dump them into a tumbler with the powder coat, and I turn it on for 10 minutes or so. And then I grab those out with some latex gloves on. I grab those out and I individually nose down into those containers, and I fill up a whole bunch of those. And then I transfer those onto a steel plate, cookie sheet type, and those are in the oven, and they're all individually, on the base, poking up. None of them are touching each other, so I get the best quality that I could get. Other powder coaters get the same results. I just haven't been able to do it this way without having them have flaws in it. Some guys will do the same thing, shake them up in a sour cream container, same thing in a tumbler, and then they just literally take a screen of some sort, like a little wire basket, and they dump it in there, shake it to get the excess powder off, and they shove that whole thing into their oven, and they could have 2 to 3 times the amount that I do in that container, and they just stick that in the oven and bake it that way. Then it comes out, and they either dump them into some water or dump them onto their table so they can cool, and off they go.
So they don't worry about the defects in the powder coating at all.
Yeah, some guys.
I'm talking about where the bullets are touching each other, laying against each other and stuff.
Correct, and I got that all the time, but I've seen like Full Lead Taco does it that way. He just dumps them into a wire basket, and his are looking like mine that I'm stacking individually. I don't know how he's not getting the where they're, like you said, where they're touching. They get a little bit of a little booger or hanger on there. But some guys like Elvis Ammo, he was doing it that way too, and his were turning out perfect. I just haven't been able to get those results. So a guy doing it the way in a wire basket could match your quantity and your speed.
Yes and no.
No.
Because you have to take into account the curing time in the oven. So
you also have to take into account the handling time. Travis's way. I'm talking about where he puts them in the empty ammo boxes and sets them on his tray and all that. That's all time that has to be counted.
Right. He's talking about not doing it that way, though. He's talking about the way that Full Lead.
Yes, he's talking about both ways. Yes, I understand that.
But
well, even so, the time in the oven is inconsequential. It's just, I just don't care to keep fooling with it. I like the way it works. For that matter, I even like the odor that comes off of the liquid Alox.
Oh, I'll agree. It smells good.
I didn't expect that from you. You are stubborn, Travis. I'll give you that. You're just stubborn trying to get me to change, as I am determined I am not going to. Thank you. So I guess whomever, I didn't catch the. Go ahead, Travis.
Now, apparently, this viewer was an Alox user, and now he's a powder coat convert.
Well, good for you.
He's joined the dark side.
No, he's joined the colored side. You know, Skittles, red, white, blue, green, and yellow. Yay, pretty bullets.
They do look pretty.
So does a well-cast lead bullet.
Thank
They
you.
do. Full Taco very often uses a clear powder coat so he can keep that lead look to his stuff.
That might be cool.
That sounds interesting. But I just don't see it making it worth the effort because, you know, I practiced my 40 and I practiced quite a bit. And, you know, you start shooting in volume, it's just not worth it. You know, I'd lubricate up 1,000 bullets. I put them on a cookie sheet, a shallow cookie sheet. I put the whole thing out there, shake it around a little bit. I got dings and everything else. Bullets went on the side, on the top, on the noses, base against base, nose against nose, ribs against ribs. It doesn't matter. You know, with the liquid Alox, it just doesn't matter.
So quite a while ago, my dad would only use a flip phone. He didn't want any other phone. He couldn't see the benefits of getting any other type of phone. Once we got him switched over to a smartphone, he couldn't believe how he'd been so stubborn for so long with that flip phone.
I'm not your dad.
How is a smartphone better than a flip?
Jason, don't tell me you're on a flip phone.
No, I have a smartphone, but I've been seriously thinking about getting a flip because I really, really hate technology and all of its screw-ups and malfunctions.
So that's why when I text you, it takes forever for you to respond to me. That or you're just ignoring me.
Both.
When did I ignore you?
Sometimes when I text you, it'll be the next day before you respond.
Well, maybe
Jason.
you text me after I go to bed. I don't have baker's hours like you do.
Hey, Jason.
Yes,
How
sir.
will you listen to podcasts if you don't use your smartphone?
That's why I still have a smartphone.
Oh, I guess you've never heard of these old-fashioned devices like these things right here, called an MP3 player.
My wife's got several of those, yeah. I used to have one.
Yeah, you charge it up with your computer.
So that's another gadget I have to have on my person
Well, yeah.
while I'm working.
So it's either smartphone or MP3 player and a flip phone, whatever. Anyway, this is a reloading podcast. We got off onto a tangent.
You know, life was better when we didn't have cell phones.
When we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have reloading podcasts either.
Nope, we didn't.
You're saying, are you trying to say life is better without reloading podcasts? Surely not.
I like reloading podcasts, but life was simpler before phones.
I won't argue that statement when you finally cleared it up.
Yeah, my daughter just can't comprehend a world where there was no internet.
Right.
What a beautiful world it was. What a beautiful world it was. Although maintaining your encyclopedia collection kind of sucked.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, back when we were kids, I don't know about you, Jim, but back when most of the rest of us were kids, you didn't get on Snapchat and all this, see where your friends were at. You actually got on your bike and you rode down to their house.
Yep.
How old are you, Travis?
Jim had a chariot.
I'm 38.
You and Phil are the same age?
I think, yeah, close enough.
38. You're practically a millennial.
Yeah, technically I am. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, let's get back. Do we have any more reloading topics? Oh, let's see here. There's
Maybe I'm
Which
not
one do you want to
on
see,
Travis
Jim?
yet.
They're all about powder coating. You don't want to look at the show notes.
So MCX in the chat wants to know, for long-term storage, will ALOX expire and allow oxidation?
no. It's a coating.
No, but I've just a thought, Jim. Let's say you're a little heavy on the ALOX, not even a lot, just slightly, and you have them in an ammo can. Will the liquid ALOX on the projectiles from heat or something transfer off and kind of contaminate your brass and your cases and all that? Is that a possibility?
It gets on the cases, yes, because if you store your ammo in bulk, you get the bullet nose against the brass. Well, now you've got liquid ALOX on the case from the bullet nose. If you're neat and clean, like in fussy, like you seem to be, and you put your ammo back in boxes, no, you won't have that. It doesn't melt. It doesn't melt onto the case. It gets on there because a bullet nose might be on the heel of the case or on the wall of the case on the outside from the bulk storage. Okay, the second question, part of the question, or the next part of the question, whichever it may be, will the liquid ALOX contaminate the powder? I can say unequivocally, no. The bullet base, it's got some powder. You got me going, God. The liquid ALOX that is on the bottom of the bullet base does not affect the powder one iota. Y'all got my tangled and then this and that damned ISP of mine.
So, Jim, while you were having issues, Travis said the reason he didn't like ALOX was the stickiness, and it would build up in his dies and whatnot. What do you think about that?
What do I think about that? I think I deal with it. I'm mechanically inclined. Okay, very mechanically inclined. I've done engine work. I've done car rebuilds, stuff like that. I don't do it anymore, thank God. But anyway, I'm quite mechanically inclined. I don't think it's a big deal. If I notice, I always check how the bullet seats into the case. Always check that by eye. I look into the ammo box or the acro bin that is collecting my case from the 550. Jason, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. The blue acro bin that Dylan gave you for your ammo when it's kicked out of the press. Right. Mike's got a red acro bin. Anyway, so I always check that, every couple rounds, make sure the bullet's not getting seated too deep. And when it does start to change, because liquid ALOX is impacted up inside the seating plunger, I clean it out. I take the press apart. I take a C-clip out that the Dylan provided me. Thank God. I love my Dylan 40 dies. And I just take a snap ring right out, pull it out. Yep, sure enough. Take a screwdriver, pry out the plug of liquid ALOX, wash it out with a drop of kerosene or two, and put it all back together. It matter of I might be down. Oh, good. Let's be generous. Say 2 minutes, 120 seconds. I'm down, just because I did a little bit of maintenance. The thing is, it doesn't really bother me to adjust a die or make a setting, readjust a setting. Never has, never will. There are guys that absolutely cannot stand a change of dies. Guys, I unthread my dies from my tool head every time.
Yeah, that's what started me on the powder coat path, was what you just said right there, though. Like I say, I shoot a lot, so when I'm cranking the handle and I would check a case, and my cartridge overall length would start to be less and less, I started to be like, why is my length changing? And sure enough, you would take your die out, like you say, and you'd look in there, and there is a buildup, an actual plug of liquid ALOX and such in there. that's what annoyed me. That was my start of trying to figure out something better.
How many rounds do you suppose you were processing before you started seeing that? Do you have an idea?
I was, even before I got the 1050, I was loading 1,000 or so at a time, and within that 1,000 round stretch, I would maybe twice tear my die apart and clean it.
Twice. And your coat and your bullet's too damn heavy. I'll tell you that right now. I might go 8,000 before I start noticing that. No, I'm not talking about 8,000 at a time. I'm talking about when I was living up in Pennsylvania. I haven't got the Dillon set up yet. But I might go 8,000 rounds. You're putting too much liquid ALOX on.
Not anymore.
Well, that's your problem. The second thing is you can deal with, if it really becomes an issue for you guys, I keep telling you, a few drops of mineral spirits on a rag works wonders for that coating of liquid ALOX.
But then you're adding in another step, though.
So did you. I said if it's a problem for you. I don't see it as a problem.
Yeah, if I was using ALOX, I wouldn't want to take each round and wipe it off.
No,
I would just I would just let it roll and just deal with it.
Well, the other thing is too, most people have a tendency to apply it on too thick. You don't want it to actually discolor the bullet. You want it to coat the bullet.
Yeah, the very first time I did it, they were pretty much brown.
Brown, yeah, right. Okay, well, you see, the thing is, you don't even want them golden. You just want a whisper of a coating, which is why I came into the practice. Jason, here's one for you. I actually cut my liquid ALOX. I've got 3-quart bottles of this stuff. I haven't even opened one of them yet, or I haven't opened 3 of them yet. I'm still using the stuff I bought from Lee to buy the 4 ounces at a time. But I've learned to use, of all things, I buy Hoppy's number 9, buy the quart bottle, and I pour a little bit of that into one of those liquid ALOX bottles. You'd be amazed. Or you can do it the other way. Doesn't matter. But you'd be amazed what that volatile solvent, it smells great. We all love number 9. At least most of us do. Travis might have that delicate nose. He may not care for that odor. But anyway, I thin the liquid ALOX down quite a bit so that it goes further, but it also, more importantly, it's thinner. It's in a vehicle of the liquid of the Hoppy's number 9. It thins it down and it puts a nice thin, faintly golden brown, very faint golden brown. Doesn't really discolor the lead at all. Doesn't stain it. Doesn't make it dark and brown like most people are doing with their bullets. Just a very thin, light coating, because that's all you got to have, because you're putting a lubrication on the wall of your bullet. Yes, you get some on the base. Yes, you get some on the bullet nose. You get some on the ogive and all that. But you know what? If you let it dry out before you put it away, and that would be like overnight in that cookie sheet of mine. I know my ISP is going up and down. I can see it in the quality of the images as I'm getting. But anyway, if you do that, let the stuff dry overnight, go to pick it up the next day. But what do you know? That bullet's dry and not even tacky.
Yeah, I always had it just slightly tacky. I'm not picking on you, Jim. I don't want you thinking I'm picking on you about.
You've been picking on me ever since you came on this show. Don't kid me. The one you really pick on is Phil, and he's not here to defend himself. And I see he's not getting hell about his pickup truck to get stuck in the mud puddle.
His truck got stuck. That's why he's not here tonight.
Okay.
He had it fully loaded up with his prepper gear, and he got it stuck in a little mud hole.
Yeah. No, be honest. The guy did say he wouldn't be here tonight. Yeah.
No, I do think there's the pros and cons of both powder coating and ALOX.
Thank you, Travis.
Just like you're never going to try powder coating, I'm never going to go back to ALOX.
Okay. Can we move on now? We've beaten on this topic at least 6 or 8 dozen times. Is there any more questions?
No.
The liquid ALOX question. When is Jim ever going to change back? Well, the answer to the viewer is a very polite but very definitely firm. No, I'm not changing.
Well, what would you like to talk about, Jim?
Well, something we haven't talked about for a while. How's that? Well, I'll tell you what I did in last week in shooting. I took a 15-year-old shooting. Well, his grandfather came along for the ride and had the company, of course, the responsibility. I took a 15-year-old boy out from lives on Long Island, of all places. He's been to Calverton, a shooting range I've been on shot a few rounds at. Had a lot of fun there. Anyway, he's lives on Long Island, but he came down to visit his grandfather. And his grandfather and I are friends, and he asked me to take him to the range, to the gun club, and I did. That was Saturday.
So was this his first time shooting?
No, absolutely not. He was quite competent with the firearms, by the way. I'm very
What
pleased to
did
report.
you
His-
take with you
his-
that he shot?
I took nothing because I didn't want that responsibility. His grandfather had plenty of ammo, reloaded ammo, and all that, and he took a 357 with cast bullet loads, and no, they weren't even ALOCs. They were old traditional. What's a Lyman 450?
Yep, I used to have that too.
I hated that thing. I gave mine away. But
That's
anyway,
mine.
so he had his with the old traditional lube groove lubrication 357. They were pretty steamed up loads. They weren't max loads, but they were right up there about 98%. And the kid's name is Haven. Haven dealt with it real well. He understood recoil. He'd been shooting a bit. He shot 40, shot 9. He understands recoil. And the kid did way well. He also took, his grandfather also took his Ruger Mark II with iron sights. Bull barrel, nice bull barrel on it and all that. And the kid, it was interesting. The kid had a lot of fun with the Mark II, but you go to shoot those steel targets, you got to have the authority of the 357. Otherwise, the steel silhouette with the flappers built on, they just don't move. They laugh. It's like, come on, guy, you're just tickling me. But anyway, took him shooting. Then 3 or 4 nights this last 6 since last podcast, I decided to try my reloading a little differently, or brass prep. I'm still in brass prep. Ugh. I did it a little differently. I do 100 rounds a night. When I go out in the garage and do it, like right now, I'm in the process of deburring primer pocket flash holes, and from the inside of the case. And it's amazing. Sometimes it's really hard to find that stupid hole because of the burrs that are in there. But it's a one-time operation, I will say that. And I might spend 20 minutes on it, but I really don't want to get into load development because I don't have my 308 with me. Why am I doing brass prep on for a rifle that I don't have with me? Simple, because soon, hopefully before the end of this year, I'm going to take some vacation time and go get my rifle. That means another trip back up to Pennsylvania, that's all. But that's for the future. Let's see here. Somebody's writing me notes.
So have you done any more annealing?
No, I have not. I have not, Travis. Simply because I just haven't bothered to. Because I'm in the middle of brass prep and I have a small bench. I don't want to take and tie into another project.
So
I burned up that last round of 100 rounds of 223 that I annealed. I didn't like the way the ammo performed, but I blame that on the load and the bullet because I was using seconds. I wasn't using top quality bullets like the Hornady 77 grain Maniacs. These were 450. These were 55 grain FMJs that were blunt. They weren't sharply pointed, like normal. The nose simply wasn't sharp enough. I think the jackets themselves were defective before somebody caught it, and they ran off quite a few bullets. And I picked up what I thought were some cheap bullets. Well, they were cheap, and they were not worth what I paid for them.
So
no, I mean I got a good deal on it. I got a good deal on them. I'm just saying the bullets aren't flying well. Go ahead, Travis.
Did you by chance see a picture? I don't know if I sent it to our group or not, of a 5-shot group that I did with my AR at 100 yards.
No, I'm sorry, I haven't.
I'll
seen
send
it.
you that. I contribute some of that stuff to my new barrel, but I believe some of it's in the way I'm prepping my brass now, which is annealing, is one of those processes.
Well, remember the thing is with annealing, you want to do it. Well, you have a very consistent way of doing it with that coil, the heating coil. But with me, I have to develop my annealing process to the point where it's precisely the same each and every time. I give the cases the same amount of time each time, or the same
Yeah.
amount of time in the flame, in the heat each time.
Yeah, and that's what's nice. I just got a dial so I can set the time it's in, and I write all that down. But are you gonna
Well,
do?
the other thing I was going to ask you about that, did you happen to put a witness line on the panel of the instruments, the instrument panel of your annealing machine? Did you happen to put a little witness mark with a fine point Sharpie so that you can always go right back to that same point?
No, because it's like an LED. So
Okay.
you just write down like 2.3, and so you can just
Okay.
dial and change, But were you gonna anneal your brass every time, or were you gonna skip every other, or how were you thinking you were gonna continue your annealing process? Because I have been annealing every time.
Same here. Same here. I planned on annealing it every time simply because it's so easy to do. 100 rounds. You can do 100 rounds, 20 minutes? Big deal. Well, the only thing is about that is I do sit there and feed them, and sometimes they get a little cattywampus or whatever, and then I got fresh cases, unannealed cases, falling down into the tray of the annealed cases, and sometimes it's hard to tell which one, and I don't
Yeah.
want to redo all that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen where some guys.
You're loading yours in a different manner. You're dropping your cases in, whereas I have a hopper that I can drop mine into.
Yeah, I've seen where some guys using the annealies have made like a little plexiglass shield to prevent that.
That's not a bad idea.
You can see some YouTube videos. They just cut a piece of plexiglass, and then they can actually stack even more brass in there because the plexiglass is holding it all in.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm lucky, I will be getting a really nice package from FW Arms for a review here soon, and that will be his automatic case feeder setup for my Annie annealer.
Okay.
So I literally will just fill up. I ordered parts today for a case feeder itself, and then that way all I got to do is fill up the hopper or the case feeder, turn it on, and his device will actually take each case, shove it into the heating element, and turn the annealer on and off each case. And I don't even have to do nothing. I can literally just fill it up, turn it on, and go about doing something else.
May I make a gentle suggestion to you, Travis?
Sure.
Because you're making it so convenient and so easy to anneal, you don't want to walk away from that machine.
Well, when I say walk away, I'm standing right off the side.
Okay,
But
I meant going upstairs to have your supper and come back down. I think it would be too risky.
I wouldn't.
That kind of heat or unattended? No. We don't want to do that.
You sound like a machinist.
I wonder why.
You would never turn. We've had some machinists at my work that will run 2 or 3 machines at once, and sometimes that doesn't work out very well.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, when I say walk away, I'm still annealer's right there. I may be right here doing some other brass prep, but keeping an eye on it. Yeah, I would not ever recommend walking away. That's good advice, Jim.
Thank you. No, I meant something even on the magnitude of start the annealer and go upstairs and go to bed, take a nap or whatever.
Oh man, yeah,
No, not in your home, not in your house. I mean, that's the last thing we want to hear about on this podcast is either you or me setting our house on fire because we let the annealing machinery do its thing. Well, the thing it did was not what we wanted. Never mind. Anyway.
I did hear a story one time. I think I mentioned this before. A guy who was wet tumbling his brass picked up an old food dehydrator at a garage sale. So
Yes.
afterwards, he filled up that food dehydrator and he ran to the store, which was 5 minutes or so from his house. And within that time frame, that old food dehydrator caught fire and burned his house down.
I've heard horror stories like that, but if I were to do something like that, I would set it outside on my porch that doesn't have a roof over it, something of that nature, because, you know, on a sunny, bright, sunny day, set it on the far corner of the porch. Because if it sets the house on, no, nothing's worth that. Because my guns are in this house. You know, my life and my wife are both in this house. No. You can't be complacent like that. So that's why I say you're going to make it quite easy, quite convenient. It sounds great, Travis. It really does. In fact, I'll even give you one. I'm a little envious of you, shitbird. But anyway, no, familiarity breeds contempt. Don't get familiar with it. You know what I mean? Don't get complacent.
Agreed.
You shoot more than I used to, and all that sort of thing. Yeah, but you're competing. You're shooting shotgun. You're shooting handgun. You're shooting rifle, 3-gun. I know you like a 3-gun business,
Yeah,
but you also have to be practicing. To do well, you have to practice. You got to be practicing at least 2 or 3 times a week.
So you know how what is it now? This time of the year, they say it's for girls. It's they like that pumpkin spice. It's pumpkin spice season. Do you guys agree that for us now, when the weather's getting colder, it's reloading season?
Yeah.
I thought he was going some other place, Jason. I really did. And don't go there. And I know I just took us to the brink of it. Please, let's not go there.
Because I don't know if you guys do it like me, but I really ramp up my reloading when it's cold out and I can't go outside. So all that load development takes place in the warmer time of year, so you can have all your info. So when you're stuck indoors, you can start stockpiling your ammo. Do you guys do the same thing?
Sure. I still got my stockpile from 2 years ago.
Jason, do you do the same thing?
Yes, sir, I do.
Do you say that you're more steady throughout the year, or do you ramp up at this time of the year?
I do more in the wintertime than I do in the summer. Summer, for one thing, it's too hot out there in the barn. And number two is that's my busiest season. So in the wintertime, if I get laid off, I'm reloading all the time. But just usually work slows down to where it's more normal.
Mike, do you do the same thing, or especially with shotgun? Do you keep it steady throughout the year, or do you stockpile a bunch of shotgun for your boys?
Stockpile, because usually winter there isn't a regular league. The leagues are more spring into summer. So.
Well, forget pumpkin spice season. It's reloading season around here.
That's right. Back to the previous conversation, Mickey Mac said 45% Alox, 45% Johnson's Paste Wax, and 10% mineral spirits. All the benefits, no stickiness. Been doing this for years. Same benefits of Alox alone with no stickiness in your bullets and dice.
Wait a minute. How's that work out? 45, that makes 90, 10%. Okay. Okay. I couldn't, it was the math issue.
Are you not?
Anyway.
Are you having problems mathing tonight, Jim?
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, I just read a thing from Paul Nelson, which brought up an idea. I don't know why I didn't ask you this earlier. So when you're annealing your brass, do you have all the same head stamps, or like do you have just a mix match of head stamps, or do you have it separated? Because I know for me, when I'm annealing, I do have to separate my brass by head stamp because they do anneal at different temperatures.
I haven't yet segregated them yet. Right now, what I had, the batch of ammo that I had, it is mixed brass. That was for this the stuff I put through the Savage Model 12. Okay, I put 200 rounds to it in the last couple months. And I fired off the first batch, but the first batch was a quality bullet. Second batch I fired had that crap bullet in it, and I got another 1,800 of them things I got to get rid of. I think they're going to go through the Mini 14s. What I think they're going to wind up going. 30 rounds at a time, blah 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 blah, all that sort of thing.
Well,
But anyway,
that might be something you might want to start thinking about, is separating, because if one's anneals at a lower time, you're either annealing too much or you're not going to get the consistency. And that's exactly what I noticed for me, is I did have to separate, because like some of my Hornady brass anneals at a lot quicker time, say 2.3 seconds, where some other brass I'm annealing, some Frontier brass or something, will anneal at 2.4. It takes more time to anneal it. So if I did it the opposite way, I'm actually over annealing and damaging the Hornady brass. So I can't imagine you're not in the similar boat with not separating that brass out.
I haven't gotten that far, to tell you the truth, Travis, but I totally agree with you. Segregating brass by its head stamp is a great idea. Absolutely. It should be done. But when you only have 200 or 300 rounds and you're just starting out, most people get in a nasty habit of mixing their brass, and I never have really gotten over that. Now, I do have a batch of 100 rounds of LC74 brass. That's the other thing I want to bring up too, is about trying to segregate LC head stamps. Anyway, LC74, I have 100 rounds of that in 223, and I planned on putting that through my Model 12. I just haven't gotten around to that. But anyway, the point is, the other thing I wanted to get at about segregating brass because I use a lot of military brass, guys. You guys know that. I got a lot of fired brass from the military because they turned it in for scrap. And I got in good cahoots with some of the people that were responsible for turning that in, and they didn't care. It's like, I got a few rounds of brass. A few rounds. But anyway, and then I did buy some. Jason, you remember that brass bank that Mike Young started?
Yeah.
Remember the guy from Guam? I don't want to say his name.
Yeah.
But the guy from Guam was giving the admins of that group brass just so he could keep his posting at the top of that bank before Facebook closed it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I got 2 or 3 different batches of some machine gun brass from him. And you start looking at that head stamp, you see LC 71, 74, 77, 72. And all you're doing is look at the last number of the head stamp. That gets kind of dull after a while. I'm saying it's pretty damn hard and boring to segregate brass by head stamp by year. I got 3,000, 4,000 rounds of 308 brass from the guy, and I got to segregate it all by one letter.
So now, if you got all of it, let's say for you, Jim, for instance, if you got all that Lake City brass,
right,
does it really worth separating by head stamp of the year where it's all Lake City? My thought would be that's all Lake City, set that aside, don't worry about years. And then you separate like Winchester, Federal, all that stuff out, but you keep all the Lake City together. Are you suggesting there's that much of a variation that you would want to separate it by the year?
Yes, Travis, that's exactly what I'm saying. But when I say that, I'm talking about, excuse me, we're talking about minute variations from year to year, because remember, once the case is made, the military does not reload their brass. They only use new brass. And so they have to buy their cups for the brass cases. They buy them from suppliers. They don't mill their own brass per se from the sheet to the cup is what I'm trying to say. Not to, I know they draw their own brass from the cup to the casing. I know that. I've seen the videos. But what I'm trying to say is there is minute differences. We'll just say, let's talk about hardness. Well, a softer brass won't need quite as much material in that cup because it will flow better. But you get a harder brass, you're going to need more brass to make the cup, which means the brass would be thicker. To make that case, I'm sorry. But the brass wall is going to be slightly thicker somehow. So that's a minute variation. Here's one for you, Travis. Have you ever measured out 1/10 of a grain of brass? Take your brass shavings, when you trim cases, take a pair of fingernail clippers and take a shaving and cut it. Cut it in two. Weigh it. Cut it in 4 pieces. Weigh each 4 of the 4 pieces. You would be surprised how small amount of metal it takes to make 1/10 of a grain. We're talking a speck of metal no bigger than the point of a pin. So you talk about variation? Yeah, there's going to be variation.
So I can say what I do with my match ammo is when I load it all, just because I want to double check it, I haven't had this happen. I have that little digital scale, and I take each piece and I drop it on that scale so I can double check, make sure there's a powder charge, or make sure there's nothing squampus going on. And I check my powder all the time, so I know my powder drop's consistent, but I will see ups and downs, and it is from either the brass, which is what I'm contributing it to mostly, or slight variations in the projectiles. But most of it, like you said, I believe comes from the brass. So I can definitely see what you're saying on that.
If you're using something on the order of a Match King, you're probably not seeing much more than a half a grain variation. Have you ever weighed out your Match King bullets or whatever? If you're using a match grade bullet, have you ever weighed those out to see the variations?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm fairly close to half a grain. That's 5/10 of a grain. It seems like a lot, but remember, we're splitting hairs almost. But yeah, you're going to see sometimes with a 308 case. Now, you're talking 223 casing, aren't you, Travis?
Yes.
Okay. You might not see a 3 or 5 grain variation in your 223 stuff, but weigh your cases empty. Okay? And you weigh them empty and then segregate them by weight. I'm not saying quit using the heavy cases or the light cases. I'm saying adjust your ammo to suit the case. What I'm saying is if you've got a light case, that means thin walls. So you might want to up your powder charge by 1/10 of a grain or 2 to give you the same exact point of impact for long range. The thicker cases, you're going to have more pressure. So back it down 1/10 or 2. Now you've got 3 batches of ammo. You got the light, thinner walled case. You've got the middle normal case, and you got the heavier walled case. But they're all shooting to the same point of aim because you've adjusted the powder charge to suit that case. That's what Jeremy taught us. Jeremy is practically a bench rest shooter. He shoots at F class. I've never seen an F class match, but I listened to him a lot. Is when he was on here on a regular basis. And it was amazing. Jason still to this day uses a technique. When he uses that quick load, he uses a technique Jeremy taught us on how to fill a case with water, because water is a universal element. We have it all. We all have it. We all have it around us, and we have plenty of access to it in our kitchen sinks or whatever. But he taught us a way to fill the case level full rather than have a bubble or a concave. He taught us how to take and get a thin stream of water and fill that case till it's level full, not bounded up or not dished under. So that's where the case volume is the actual key to getting consistent ammo. But yes, weighing your cases out by 2/10 of a grain is what Jeremy breaks it down. down to 0.2 of a grain variation. If this case weighs 23.4 grains, but the next one weighs 23.7, that's 0.3. So he puts it in a batch for 23.7. But anyway, the point is, Travis, yes, you can do that. That's why I say the LC stuff, you segregate it by year, then you segregate it by weight. But I'm talking about for a boat gun. I'm not talking about for an M1A or something like that. But don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking Springfield Armory's quality. I'm talking about something that I'm just going to take and go out and blast with. I have a Mini 14. That thing can't hit the broadside barn, but it's sure a lot of fun to rip off a whole magazine, isn't it?
Well, I can tell you, though, from when I first came on, I never separated any of my 223 brass.
Mm-hmm.
I just pulled them out of a 5-gallon bucket and I processed them and I loaded them.
Mm-hmm.
Now I started to separate everything by head stamps.
Mm-hmm.
I don't weigh them, though. I haven't gotten into it that much. But I have noticed more consistency,
Mm-hmm.
better accuracy just by sorting out the head stamps. I personally wasn't going to go through the Lake City stuff and start separating that. I was just, in my mind, I'm just considering that one group.
No, I don't think. I think you'll find that I'm right. Give it a try. But let me ask you this too: when you're shooting that AR in your 3-gun matches, what ranges are you shooting at on a consistent level? What ranges?
Anywhere from right close out to 500 plus yards.
Okay, so you do have room for the long range stuff, but do you go first round, maybe close up, self defense kind of stuff? Second round,
it's all close to fire. It could be variations of everything.
Well, what I'm getting at is, do you have time to take and have your long range ammo in one pocket and have your close range ammo in another pocket? Do you have that kind of time between events? Well, there you go. Segregate your ammo by magazine full.
Yep, that's what a lot of us do. We have our burner ammo, our 55 grain burner ammo for up close. And then once we transition to those long shots, we'll pull out our good ammo. That's exactly what I do.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I have noticed, I'll send you that picture in our group so you can see. I think by me tightening up my reloading practice, as in sorting the brass, the annealing, that alone has really helped out my accuracy.
I don't disagree with you, and I don't doubt it. But the other thing is, here's something you could invent: a brass sorter, and not by caliber either. I'm talking about by head stamp. Read that head stamp. Come on now, read that head stamp. Sort it. Yeah, that would.
Well, I know they do have machines that have those photo eyes in factories that they fly by so fast. Yeah. And they blow it out with a stream of air.
Yep. Matter of fact, I've seen the glass plant I used to work in up in Pennsylvania had that exact same thing, but we're talking, tens of millions of bottles a year. Matter of fact, we're talking tens of millions of gross of bottles a year. Yeah, well, I just multiplied what I just said the first time by a factor of 144. Anyway, Mike, we got anything else, buddy? We've had a pretty good discussion, Travis. Thank you. And no, you haven't changed my mind about trying powder coat. I would try powder coat bullets simply as a courtesy, but I'm not going to change to powder coating.
Okay, so did you? If Mike hasn't sent you some, he should have.
I haven't yet.
Okay, because I do. You heard it on air. You heard it on air. I at least have some for you. It's in Mike's possession for you to try.
Well,
at least it's a.
I am all just in gangbusters, all worried and fretting as to exactly when am I going to get those 40 caliber bullets that Travis powder coated for me. Can't you tell all kinds of trepidation. I'm
Mike,
worried, frantic.
Mike, I want you to take those bullets and just throw them right in the trash.
No, Mike, use it for yourself.
Yeah, I got 40 cal on it.
That's right.
We'll shoot them in the high point. Make the boys learn how to load 40 cal, and they can load up their own 40 cal and shoot them out of the high point.
It don't bother me a bit. Travis, we're not disrespecting you in any way whatsoever. I do appreciate the effort that you put into trying to make a convert out of me. And I enjoy it, but it ain't going to happen. Anyway.
In the chat, Paul's saying that weight doesn't necessarily indicate thinner brass.
That's right.
Definition of brass. So
that's right. Case capacity is where it's really happening, and that's case capacity by volume.
Yeah, but also going off of Paul's last comment, that just reinforced that I don't need to separate by year as much.
Well, like I said, from 74 to 81 to 93 by Lake City, 74, Lake City 83, and Lake City 91, we'll just say those, the brass composition varies by lot, much less year by year.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe you that there's going to be some variance. Is it enough to worry about?
Well, hell, we see variances. We see bigger variances than that between Winchester cases. We see that same kind of variation from batch to batch.
I know Mike's opinion on that, though.
Well, I'll tell you the best way to get consistent brass, at least close to consistently matched brass. And that's if you buy your new brass from one of the suppliers like Brownells or whatever. You buy it through them. You buy yourself 100 rounds for your bolt gun, and you use that until it's worn out. That's the quickest and easiest way to get 100 rounds of very consistent brass. But you know what? Everybody takes that for granted that it's going to be consistent. And I, as a machinist, know for a fact you don't take anything consistent for granted, except the standard that you use for your micrometer. You check your micrometer once a week and make sure I picked up a drill bit today. It was in a 7/32 slot in the drill index. I went and got my micrometer and made sure it was a 218 drill. 7/32 decimal equivalent is 0.218 inches. My point is, I went and made sure that it was consistent. The only thing you really can trust is your micrometer when it comes to that. And I'm saying you can't trust that factory brass to be consistent all 100 rounds. It happens. Variations happen.
Well, the bottom line, Travis, is your consistency round around is going to depend on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go.
Amen. And Mike, you remember Jeremy took us a long way down into that rabbit hole.
Yep.
Right. So I'll send you this picture, Jim, and I think it's a pretty good group. So I'm assuming, like, taking what Mike just said, the more anal I get about consistency, the smaller that group size would get.
Don't forget to include the shooter in that too, because I have seen a military shooter. I have been on range with him when we were done. We were all firing, cleaning up the excess ammo we had. I saw this guy take 10 rounds of Lake City ball ammo, a rack weapon, a sawdust-filled sandbag. I'll get it right. Fresh target downrange, 100-yard range. I watched that guy with iron sights, the naked eye, no spotting scope or anything, print a 1-inch group at 100 yards with iron sights, ball ammo. And he says, Terry, how do you do that? And he says, consistency. Jim, you turn your foot when you're shooting, when you lay there, you don't think about that. How do you take and place your elbow? I've learned to take and do everything consistently. My sight picture is always consistent. Consistency, consistency, consistency. It's the key. You have to include the shooter. And I know you have to do quite a bit of practice, Travis, to even think about getting good. I don't know how much you practice. I don't know how often you practice. But you know what? Here's a big inconsistency. You can't possibly. You're a little bit further than I know what time it is, Mike. It's impossible to shoot at the same time every day to get the same light every day as you do on the range. Yeah. Okay, that's a great group. That really is. It's one hole, 5 shots in that. I don't hear you, Mike. Oh, you're muted.
That's Travis's group anyway.
Okay, 26.3 grains of something, but that's less than a quarter inch. 5 shots, that's less than a quarter inch.
Yeah, in fact, I just sent you the second one. I'm using that Range Buddy app, and it shows 0.21 MOA.
Well, there's my machinist training taking over. I see it from 800 miles away. A picture come down from Mike, and I told you less than a quarter inch. Anyway, the point is, you can't possibly do everything consistently because, let's face it, our light changes from day to day. If you live,
the last time I was at the range, I think it was 70 something degrees, and then when I shot this group, it was 54 degrees.
There you go. That's variance right there in ambient conditions. We're going down the rabbit hole with Jeremy this time. But we're going to have to call it a night here pretty soon, guys, because Jim's got to turn into a pumpkin here very shortly. I apologize for the quality of my connection, people. I pay my ISP in excess of $100 a month, and my question to them is going to be, how much more do I have to pay to get good internet connection? Right now, I see red connection. I know Travis and Mike and Jason all see it too. When they're talking, I see the quality of their connection.
Hey, Mike, can I ask something? I'm being completely serious, though. I'm not. It's not nothing against Jim or in favor of my argument for powder coating. I'm very honestly curious if you would be willing to post on our Facebook group or MeWe or all of the above. I'm curious to see how many people are powder coating and how many people are doing either ALOX or the traditional lube methods. And I'm honestly curious to see what variations we got in this group.
Yeah, I can create a couple polls.
Yeah, well, okay, because Travis doesn't like to take and write much. But yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'll create a couple polls. It'd be good to
put it in all 3 places, Mike, if you don't mind.
I will.
Yeah, I'm curious if also we do have a little bit of a newer generation who are looking at powder coat versus the older generation who are doing what they've grown up doing.
I don't think that's necessarily accurate.
Well, that's what I'm kind of curious to see. Is that the case, or is it just completely?
You wouldn't be able to find that out because not only are you relying on everybody to answer whether they powder coat or they do something else, but now you're going to ask them to reveal their age as a separate data point. And the chances of that happening accurately is infinitesimally slim, and you're basically going to end up throwing your age data.
Mike, we picked up a hell of a blast of static from you, Mikey.
Well, that was nice of it. Is that any better?
No. It's something. It sounds like something physical. Maybe one of your plugs are getting a little worn out or something like that.
It's just like what happened the last couple weeks ago.
Exactly.
On you had to unplug it. And...
Is that better now?
No, it's.
Maybe the board's finally going.
Anyway, guys, I got to get going.
So,
Mike, you want to sign off?
Sure. Am I any better now, or am I still fuzzy?
No.
Well, then I'm not doing the sign off. One of you guys can do it. Makes you think, everybody.
All right. On that note, I guess we're going to have to say goodnight to everyone. I don't have my show notes, and I apologize for not. Thank you for the Patreons. I know we always thank those, and thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for the great conversation tonight, Travis. Even if it was a little bit kick Jim in the ass at the very beginning, but that's all right. I don't care. Jim's taken a lot of beating on this podcast, especially from that hairy bastard down there, out there in Rio Linda. Anyway, Travis, what's your tagline?
Powder coating rules.
Jason,
Be an asset, not a liability.
Mikey, you want to try it?
Keep your brand shiny.
Yay, he got it in. And I say, reload some ammo, prep some brass, and take somebody shooting. Support the Second Amendment.